Good Monday evening and welcome to the special edition of the NCWLIFE Evening News. I'm Grant Olson. On this eve of the 4th of July, we're offering you a set of special reports, starting with an inside look at the Washington State University Tree Fruit Research Center and its plan for a new state-of-the-art greenhouse. We'll also visit Lake Chelan, where a coalition of agencies and organizations is working to keep those crystalline waters blue for generations to come. First up tonight, Washington State University established its Tree Fruit Research Center in Wenatchee back in 1937, aiming to make north central Washington agriculture the best it could be. It went on to become the birthplace of the Cosmic Crisp apple and other fruit varieties. Now, Director Chad Kruger says the facilities are showing their age, and Washington State University is planning for a complete replacement of the aging greenhouse structures. He led NCWLIFE News on a tour of the center to explain why.
The main campus here is largely a research campus with laboratory facilities, physical plant to operate. We do have residential student housing here on campus. A lot of people don't know that. And kind of plant growth facilities and everything necessary to actually do research on tree fruit. The majority of the facilities on campus are, we'll call them pre-World War II, World War II, and Korean War vintage. And for a modern research facility looking forward into the future, that does present some challenges. So there's historically been a lot of really important work here that's supported the tree fruit industry, but there's a lot of work that can't be done basically because of facility deficits at this point in time. So that's really the challenge that we're sitting in today.
For today, we've got some apples from a company in Quincy. We got some pathogens from the companies, and we want to see if that pathogen causes some food safety issues in post-harvest systems. In 2020, there was a report from some of the packing houses in Washington State that there was asymptomatic contamination of apples. So when they went to the lab to measure, they saw that there was high pathogen content in apples that doesn't have these symptoms I showed you earlier. So now what we did was to go to those companies, grab some of their stuff, and come to our lab here. We smash them open, culture them, and we see some growth from those apples, which looked asymptomatic when we got them in the first instance. So we want to see if this asymptomatic contamination is widespread or is localized, or there are other pathogens apart from what we know that is causing it. So maybe there are some other cryptic fungal species that might be involved that we don't know. So it's a wide range of things. So we want to see epidemiology, fungicide sensitivity, and to what extent do they produce this pathogen, and what are the genetic factors that cause that made them to behave this way. So we want to test them on these apples now to see if we get the same thing. So it's called Koch's postulate in biology. So you first of all go into the disease system, get out the microbe that's there, and see if it causes the same thing. So you have to, that's how you verify that that is what is causing the disease.
In our case here, last year we replaced the steam line that provides heat to this main facility you're standing in right now. That's, I think, the third time it's been replaced since the building was installed. And they're saying they'll probably never do that one again because technology changes, but unfortunately, the way things have been coming, we're only getting to emergencies at this point in time with the funds that are provided by the state. Some of us are thinking that we've gotten to the point where we're so far past the point of repair on a lot of things that we're actually probably more economical to simply scratch old and start new. We also have a complex down in this part of the campus that's really focused on entomology programs primarily, and also our plant growth facilities. And we have about 7,000 square feet of greenhouse space, which again, vintage World War II, Korean War. It's basically the poorest quality greenhouse space in WSU. We need more controlled atmosphere facilities in order to do the research and experiments that you would think need to be done in order to be ready to manage crops 20, 40 years down the line. So you think about things like the heat dome event from a couple of years ago, or other kind of extreme weather events. When you get that one time in the field, you get a lot of anecdotal information about what happens to the tree. But if you want to repeat that and understand what are the impacts, you need to be able to go inside a greenhouse and control the environment and essentially do replication to see, did what we see, was that like a one-time thing that you know, noise in the data, or is this something that we need to be better prepared for in the future? So the new facility that we are designing really brings all those capabilities. We'll have significant control on temperature, atmospheric chemistry, humidity, moisture, all those factors that right now we got a building with glass that has some heat that we can grow some plants in, but to be able to experiment in is just not going to be there. Tissue culture lab and controlled atmosphere, or controlled storage, cold storage, and growth chambers and things like that, and also working space. Cold rooms, dark rooms, growth chambers, dry storage, you know, more mechanical room, workspace, dirty work area, you know, so that you can drive in and drop things off. Storage, chemical storage, tissue culture lab, you know, kind of everything you need to actually have a fully contained, everything we need to do in terms of growth and experiment with plants, we can do it in that building. And actually what it will do is it'll provide some relief on other space needs that we have in our existing facilities that we do plan to use for the next 40 years, because, you know, we'll just move certain things out into that space. Cost projection in the recent construction and economic environment has been a very, very challenging thing. So we're assuming this is an $18 to $20 million build to build it out and you know, supply it and make sure it's ready to actually use. So I'll kind of, from this vantage point out where you see the sign in the field out there is where the plant growth facility is planned for. And the city's going to update spring water this year all the way up to the Coug House. You want to get ready to take something into the greenhouse for an experiment, you basically start here and work on it. And this is part of what the new facility plan actually has, is make these spaces much more functional and usable so that you can do everything related to work that ultimately the plant's growing in the greenhouse. But this is one of the structures I want to go away. And so, you know, it is a greenhouse. It does have, you know, atmospheric controls. It does have irrigation and misting, that kind of thing. But it's just not in great shape, and it's really, honestly, poorly designed too. So it's not super functional to run a number of experiments. You'll see that the benches are essentially homemade benches. They're not real smooth, and when you go into a new facility, you'll find that benches are set up that they're rolling. You know, so you might have a situation where a room half this size is actually a large enough unit room to work on the same number of plants for an experiment. And so in a room this size, you could potentially have twice as many plants and functionally use it and do 2 experiments instead of just 1. So this is where the new facility would go. And the greenhouses would be on this end, and the main part of the head house on the other end. One thing you do have to think about in a university setting is, you know, the time horizon of planning that you're looking at is, you know, sometimes you're doing things in the next 6 months to 5 years, but at a campus like this, you really have to be thinking about 100 to 250 years. What are you doing with it?
When we come back, Lake Chelan is a jewel in the heart of north central Washington. But how do you keep that jewel safe from invasive species that might tarnish its luster? I'm Grant Olson, and you're watching the NCWLIFE Evening News.
It's Click It RV's lowest price guarantee sale going on now at your neighborhood Click It RV.
Be a winner like me and get to Click It RV.
With 0 down and no payments till September, now is the time to own your dream RV.
Get to Click It RV now. Are you going to be mad, bro?
Get never before deep discounts on trailers, fifth wheels, toy haulers, and motorhomes. Plus the best selection, highest trade-in values ever, and a lifetime warranty. Nobody beats the discounts at Click It RV.
I'm Richard Sherman, and we guarantee it.
On Frontage Road.
Lake Chelan is known for its deep, clear water. But what if something happens to the biology of the lake that causes that to change? NCWLIFE's Jefferson Robbins visited the lake and spoke with people who've studied it closely. They say it takes vigilance to keep invasive aquatic species from muddying the waters.
What is it that makes Lake Chelan so special?
First of all, it's the third deepest lake in the United States. It's like 27th in North America, but it was still a very deep lake at 1,486 feet. It's also what we call ultra oligotrophic. At least that's what it's been in the past, and that just means really low nutrient levels or food levels, and so that's why it's very clear.
Dr. Phil Long is a scientist and director of the Lake Chelan Research Institute, a nonprofit dedicated to understanding the environment of Lake Chelan and its surrounding ecosystems.
I have a friend, we were walking across the Wooden Avenue Bridge one day, and she looked into the water and said, "Phil, what do you put in the water in Lake Chelan to make it so clear?" Well, of course, it's nothing, right? And this is what we want to do, is protect the lake. Our byline for the Institute, clear into the future, that's where we want to be.
That means, in part, sampling the water quality and monitoring for invasive species, plants and animals that could pose a risk if they're introduced to Lake Chelan waters.
We realized we'd gone 9 years with 0 water quality samples on Lake Chelan, which is kind of hard to get the trends if you don't have continuous sampling. So we've gone from a first quarterly sampling, now we do monthly sampling at 3 sites, and that's funded by City of Chelan, for one thing, Chelan County, Lake Chelan Reclamation District, and the Conservation District.
When you came back and did the first water quality testing in almost a decade, what did you find? What had changed?
Well, very little, actually. Since the very first water quality measurement that was made in 1986 and 1987. That was the first water quality study, and unfortunately at that time there wasn't the funding to keep doing that. But to do trends, you really need to be able to do the kind of thing we're doing now with monthly sampling. So this is the great story for Lake Chelan. You can't really tell the difference in water quality in Lake Chelan in the middle of the lake between now and 1987. So that's the good news. The not so good news is that we're starting to see more attached green algae on the margins of the lake. And so it's various stringy green things, and people started noticing this in the last few years, especially last year. We started getting calls. People would call the PUD, or they would call us. The PUD would refer them to us, and they would say, "What is this green stuff growing on my swim step in the lake that I'd never seen before?" So that's what we're trying to deal with now. Unfortunately, the Public Power Benefit Program of the PUD is giving us some funding to address that issue. Over the next 3 years, we'll be monitoring to understand where and what times of the year this kind of stuff is growing, and is it something we can do anything about? What do we need to do? What's the cause of it? And can we affect it? It could be as simple as a slight increase in temperature, or maybe the organisms are adapting to Lake Chelan in a way they haven't done before.
Things like changes in temperature, changes in pH can change the way a species that has always existed behaves in the water.
Right, yeah. This historic range of what it's done in the past is changing for some reason, or you do have an introduction of a new species. So one of the things we're seeing this year as we begin this study funded by the PUD is that we're seeing these attached diatoms, which they have a stalk that attaches them to a surface. And it looks like fluffy, really fluffy cotton candy, only it's very mobile in the water, and so you see that fluffing around, and it's not dark green like some of the periphyton is. It's very light colored. But it turns out these are organisms that typically we think are actually just free floating. They're planktonic, as we say, in the lake. Now they're attached and they're growing this spring in a way we hadn't seen before.
Long's Institute has become a valuable partner for Chelan County's Natural Resources Department, where specialist Lisa Dowling is a frequent collaborator.
We are seeing increases in algae growth happening around the nearshore environment, and an influx in aquatic invasive species that are kind of thought to be sentinels for long-term changes that we really need to keep tracks on and make sure that we are adapting the way that we manage water quality and detect water quality issues so that we can make sure Lake Chelan has great water quality well into the future. We know that many decades ago we didn't have a lot of Eurasian milfoil and Asian clams throughout the lake. We do have folks that have lived in and around the lake for many years, and some of their anecdotal observations are ways that we can understand, well, this beach used to have no clams and now it is thoroughly infested. Now, species like Asian clams and Chinese mystery snails likely were brought here by early settlers as a food source. And then other species like Eurasian milfoil and curly-leaf pondweed probably hitched a ride on watercrafts over decades. Exactly when they came to the lake is tough to pin down, but they've been growing a lot. And we recently did a survey for those species in 2021, which was the first survey that had been completed since 2014. And for a lot of these species, their big claim to fame is that they can blow up at a moment's notice if they get a really good condition going. So we were not surprised, but a little disappointed to find that there had been an extreme growth in Eurasian milfoil and curly-leaf pondweed in that period of time. Prior to that assessment, we thought that Lake Chelan did not have suitable habitat for some of these other invasive mussels that are extremely concerning, named quagga and zebra mussels. We don't have those in Washington State, we don't have them in Lake Chelan, and we want to keep it that way. They require a certain range of dissolved calcium and oxygen for suitable habitat, and we thought that Lake Chelan had such low levels of those things that it didn't provide suitable habitat. But what we found is that Asian clams, for example, can alter the habitat at the microclimate scale in a way where it's not only suitable but kind of fantastic habitat for quagga zebra mussels. And a lot of those existing clam beds are in places where we see a lot of watercraft usage as well. So those things, when taken together, raise some concerns.
That is kind of a cryptic impact to lake water quality that could be beneficial. It could be they're filter feeders. They're removing some of the stuff that may make the lake less clear, but also, they're interfering with the normal phytoplankton growth and potentially taking up food that the fish could eat, the kokanee that people love fishing for in Lake Chelan.
Minimum responsibilities is you want to walk around the entire outside of the vessel, make sure that you don't have any little bits of plant fragments and pieces hanging off your trailer or your boat at all. Any of those internal tanks, like ballast tanks, you want to pull the plugs out and have them totally drained. You want to make sure that any pools of water on the inside of the boat have been dried up and cleaned out. You want to make sure that life jackets and ropes and things like that may hold on to water have been thoroughly dried out.
Stephen Leske, one of Dowling's fellow natural resource specialists with Chelan County, explains how a new appliance installed at the lakeside marina can help boat owners avoid transferring contaminants between lakes.
So this system here, we have a compressed air nozzle for blowing stuff off of the boat, any dry debris that may have been accumulated during the time on the water. We also have a scrub brush for brushing any algae that may accumulate along the water line or on the engine as they're out doing their thing. A set of tongs for grabbing vegetative debris, so we don't want to introduce any more of that stuff to the Columbia River or neighboring lakes that have lower amounts of that. And also a vacuum system for sucking in water out of the bilge that might not get pumped out with the bilge pump operations, and a way to additionally help boaters keep their boats clean.
It doesn't matter if you own a boat or not. If you care about the lake, there are ways that you can help participate and things that you can do to reduce the risk to the lake. And it can be as simple as the way that you recreate in and around the lake, or the communications that you have around the coffee table with your friends. And if you have spare time, coming and helping us when we do Restore the Shore events or any other kind of volunteer event, there's a lot that can happen out there that will benefit our lake.
Coming up next, I'll have all the weather details for your 4th of July picnic tomorrow, and then some hot weather on the way later this week. Your weather details coming up next. Please stay with us.
Enjoy the sounds of summer from your very own pool and spa. Blue Lagoon is now scheduling pool installations for this summer. Call today to schedule a free consultation for a custom San Juan fiberglass pool. And let the experts at Blue Lagoon handle the construction, installation, and regular maintenance. Turn your boring backyard into vacation paradise this summer with industry-leading San Juan pool. No need to go off the deep end. Relax knowing you're in great hands with Blue Lagoon Pool and Spa.
Time now for a check of your North Central Washington weather forecast. Hope your weekend was a good one. We had some cooler weather over the weekend and all kinds of wind as well. Like we can do without that wind, right? Not as windy today though. We did see some clear skies out there. Some haze around from fires up in British Columbia, and that will be with us not only today but tonight and tomorrow. Also with us until 11 o'clock tonight, a red flag warning, and it's mainly for Douglas and most of Grant County, where we could see some strong winds today. Humidities are going to be very low, and we're going to see some fairly warm temperatures. Wenatchee not quite included in that red flag warning, but we're awfully close. So boy, be very careful with any fires that you may be around or start today, maybe camping. So just be extra careful out there. High temperature today. Didn't get all that warm, but warmer than yesterday. 87 degrees our high temperature, just a few degrees above 84, and that's normal for this time of year. Our record high, 2015 was a hot one, wasn't it? 106 degrees, 59 this morning, and that's right on target with where we should be for a normal low temperature. 47 is our record low, and that was set in 1990. Sunrise this morning, 5:09, and it sets tonight for us at 9:01. All right, let's get you right into your Independence Day forecast, and it looks pretty darn nice. I think we're going to see more of that haze, but we're also going to warm up a little bit. 90s from Moses Lake to Ephrata to Quincy and right back here in Wenatchee, and then a lot of upper 80s around our area too, including Ellensburg, Cashmere, Eniat, and Chelan. You will all be 88 to 89 degrees. So we are slowly warming up, and folks, that's going to be our trend, especially as we get into the later part of the week. Widespread haze in our forecast tonight. Northwesterly breezes bringing that smoke down from British Columbia, and that's what will cause that the next 36 to 48 hours. For tomorrow, hazy skies, warmer. We'll see highs near 90 degrees as we just talked about for Tuesday, and it's going to be hot all up and down the West Coast for our Independence Day. High pressure still off the coast on Wednesday, but it's turning into more of a westerly and maybe even a southwesterly flow late in the day, so I don't think it's going to be quite as hazy for Wednesday, and that'll allow us to warm up into the low 90s for midweek. And we're going up from there as we get you into Thursday. Once again, high pressure dominating all of the western United States. We are going to warm into the mid and even upper 90s as we get you into Thursday. Boy, just hot all over the west, and no change as we end our week on Friday. Unseasonably hot with, once again, afternoon high temperatures in the mid to upper 90s. Saturday will cool down a couple of degrees, if you can call mid 90s cooler. It's going to be sunny on Saturday, still hot all over central and eastern Washington. And getting into the end of the forecast, sunny, no changes. Still hot out there as we end the weekend with high temperatures in those mid 90s. But it looks like we may be seeing a little bit of a change as we get into next week. Thunderstorms in Montana, but we'll have to keep an eye on that as we make our way through the work week. All right, let's take a look at your 7-day forecast. 63 tonight. A little hazy for your 4th of July tomorrow, 90 degrees. And here's where we begin to warm up. 93 Wednesday, 97 on both Thursday and Friday. Sunshine throughout the forecast. And for Saturday and Sunday, a hot weekend ahead with afternoon high temperatures right around 95. And that's a look at your local weather forecast. Coming up next, Dan Kuntz talks pyrotechnics with an expert who knows how to please a crowd. We'll be right back.
Hi everybody, Dan Kuntz alongside Jesse Coble from Alpine Air. My heat pump there's like steam coming out of it. It's making weird noises. Is this something I need to be concerned about?
No, Dan, that's normal operation. Refrigeration technology steals heat from the outside, transfers it to the inside, and it creates frost on your heat pump. The defrost cycle melts that off, which creates steam and a little bit of noise.
That makes sense. Turn to the experts at Carrier and Alpine Air. For heat and air, call Alpine Air. Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you.
4th of July fireworks at Walla Walla Point Park are a summer tradition in Wenatchee. That tradition returns tomorrow night, and Dan Kuntz recently got the lowdown from Kaylee Boggs, the woman who makes the big booms possible.
July 4th, about 10 minutes after 10. Mm-hmm. What are we going to see? Give me anything new, anything, what do we got?
Well, we are back on the island this year, a little different, little shift from last year. We were able to repair it. The PUD was very nice and went out and fixed it for us. And we will be performing with the big band again this year. So you can look forward to that. I haven't got the music for it yet, so we'll all be surprised.
There will be the big finale. There always is. It's spectacular. Is there a lot of coordination and choreography between the live music that's going to be played here at the park and what you're doing? How does that work?
Yeah, so one of the benefits of our show, the way we shoot, is live with the music. So what we'll do is go through the scores that the musicians give us and say like, oh, I really want this effect here. I really, we have a giant cymbal crash or a giant like drum lead up to something. Like, let's put something cool there. So it's kind of plug and play as far as what we do.
But you also have to time out the fact that you're shooting off the fireworks from the spit, and it takes an X amount of time to get up to the elevation it needs to be, and then it explodes. That's all got to be factored in there, right?
Yes, yeah. So it is all done by a person. It is not done on a computer. So we actually I will have the scripts, and we'll actually be timing out. And I've got a lot of musicians in my group, so we just count the music and keep going.
Is there a general rule of thumb on latency from the time you light the fuse until the time it explodes up in the sky 300 or 400 feet in the air? Or is every firework different?
So it depends on the size of the firework. So we shoot anything from a 1/2 inch to a 6 inch here. It's a very complicated equation to figure it out your first couple times, and then afterwards you just kind of feel it.
What's that like to put off this incredible show of fireworks above the Columbia River and you don't get to watch it?
I mean, we kind of do from the best seat in the house because we're directly under it. So I have about 6 people that are out on the island with me during the event, and they're on fire watch, or they're making sure that everything is going correctly. We don't have any issues. We don't have people trying to come onto the island. It's a big one. The rafters always try and get the best seat in the house. Honestly, I haven't had any of my group complain about not being able to see them because of how close we are.
Is there anything new in the world of pyrotechnic fireworks, the professional stuff that you do? Do they bring in new kinds of things and they retire ones that aren't so popular anymore? How does that work?
Yes. So Roman candles are not our friend anymore because they catch fire so easily. You will have a hard time finding a professional show that continues to use Roman candles. We use all kinds of different effects. They're constantly being made. They're manufactured all over the world. So China has actually stopped being a manufacturer for fireworks. They do not create anymore because of the high risk that it is in their warehouses. But Mexico is starting to be quite a large hub. We have some gentlemen in Iowa, and I think a gentleman in Wyoming that we get some product from. So all over the place.
Do fireworks have names? In other words, how do you know what any particular firework is going to do if you've never lit it off before?
So every firework has a description on it. And if you're the person building that firework, you know what it's going to do. But we get all of our products pre-done here. It's just safer, and we also don't have the time to build.
And that will do it for our newscast tonight. For more on these stories and other news from around North Central Washington, you can find us on Facebook or our website at ncwlife.com. And remember, if you see news happening, we'd like to hear from you. You can send us an email at news@ncwlife.com or give us a call at 888-6295. And just a reminder, we won't be airing the evening news or Wake Up Wenatchee Valley tomorrow due to the Independence Day holiday. I'm Grant Olson. Thanks so much for being with us. Please have a festive and safe 4th of July.